Hi, friends. Welcome back to the Literary Ladies podcast. It has
Yay.
been, Melanie, do you know how long it's been
I
exactly?
think our last episode that we published was February of last year.
It's been so long.
It has been a
So
hot minute.
almost 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So we're back and we're so
Yay.
excited.
Finally have our lives together, maybe.
Kind of. We kind of have our lives together. We'll do a little life update and then we'll go into talking about Final Girl Support Group book, which is on brand for spooky season. And then
Yay.
we'll talk about a little fun series we're going to do next to kick off our podcast. Give it new life. And
Yes, we're so happy to be back. We have lots of ideas, lots of motivation currently to keep this
yeah,
going. So
yeah,
I feel like what happened last time is we kind of just got into this like book slump and it just lasted eternally. So we gotta like we can not finish books if we want to, even if we announce them and we're like, we're not feeling this. We can just not do we can still do an episode and talk about why we didn't like it, why we didn't finish it.
exactly. So, since I don't have much to update on, I'll start with the life updates and then we can fill them in and all your fun life stuff. My only update is that I moved to South Carolina. So, I was living in Tampa, Florida for the last several years. I hated it, the weather, the people, the
The Florida man.
the Florida man, the traffic, the politics, did not like any of it. So I uprooted my life and moved here last March. So, like, right after our last podcast was filmed.
And she's thriving, doing great things.
I'm trying to. And
Yay.
then Melanie has way more life updates. So here she goes.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but yeah, so I'm pretty sure actually it was probably right after or right before I posted the last episode that we did that I dropped out of med school. Yay, exciting. So I literally dropped out of med school on Valentine's Day last year. I remember that. So it was a little like love gift to myself. And honestly, no regrets. If you are doing something and you just don't vibe with it, don't be afraid to quit, no matter how much financial burden you have. I know that is easier said than done for some people, but don't stick with it if you don't like it, if you're not passionate about it. That's all I got to say. Also, I got married. Yay. Also, I have way too many foster animals in my house right now, but we're living, we're thriving. It's great.
All the life updates.
Well, yeah. So the book we're talking about today, like KP said, is The Final Girl Support Group by Grady Hendrix. And I actually realized when I was reading this that I've read another Grady Hendrix book. I read How to Sell a Haunted House, I think is what it's called before, which funny enough, I rated the same as I rated this. So we'll get to that at the end, but Grady Hendrix is a pretty solid rating from me so far. So we'll see.
I heard some crazy things about that one. I heard there's a scene where like something happens with an eyeball, and
Yeah.
someone told me not to read it because it's like very gory, and I don't like that.
Yeah, I guess it's like depending on your own imagination and how much you really can picture what's going on, or if how much you do. Sorry if you hear weird noises. I think my animals are trying to get in the door behind me. But, anyways, yeah, if you like picture things very vividly when you're reading a book, I can see where that would be not the best.
Yeah, fair enough. Do you
Yay.
want to give a little synopsis of what this book is about?
Yes. So basically, it is told from the perspective of Lynette, who's our main character or final girl, if you will. Basically, a final girl, kind of the definition is wishy washy in this book. Very strictly, it would be someone who survived a murderer killing a lot of their other friends or people around them, and then they kill the killer and they're like the one remaining final girl. But you kind of have Lynette who didn't kill her killer, so everyone kind of debates whether she is a final girl or isn't a final girl. But her and I think there's like 6 other girls that come together and they meet with a counselor once a month. I think
Yeah,
it is.
I think it was once a month. Yeah.
And they've been like, they're old now, and these things happened to them when they were younger. And so they've been doing this for quite a while. So it's kind of, some people think that it should be the end of this group. Some people want it to continue on just because of the shared experience that they have together. But while that's all happening, we have another kind of serial killer come around that they have to deal with in present day while they're much older. So that being said, I tried to keep it very vague and not do any spoilers, but the rest of this podcast will have spoilers. So if you haven't read the book yet and you want to, go ahead and get it and read it and then come back. Yay.
Perfect.
And since
Yay.
I just got to talk so much, I'll ask you the first question. KP
Okay.
is so good, and she always comes up with all the questions and sends them to me. Did you get, I know there were some in the back of the book. Did you use any of those?
No.
No, you just decided to come
Crap.
up with your own. That they were crap. Sorry, Grady Hendrix. Apologies, sir. Oh, the one thing I will say is reading books by men is very difficult, I find. I don't know if you have that same opinion, but
I find it difficult. This might be a hot take. I find it difficult to read a book by a man about a woman's perspective of being murdered. Do you get
yeah.
what I'm saying? Like he tried to like channel what a woman's mindset would be
Mm.
in modern day when people are trying to kill women, but he's a man. That was very interesting to me, and I'm sure
Yeah.
we'll get more into it.
And I've only read, as far as genres, I've read a thriller written by a man, and this is more like horror thriller kind of. So I've read 2 in that genre by men. And so I haven't really read many books by men, but so far I have the same kind of opinion.
We
Okay,
support
so
female authors only.
yes, we love the female authors. Anyways, so first question. We read the book from the perspective of Lynette, who was our female main character. What do you think about her mental state during the book, and did it change from the beginning to the end?
So I would say the beginning of the book, I was like, she's very anxious, she's very nervous, she's very paranoid, she's obviously has very severe PTSD from what she went through. But at the end of the book, throughout the rest of the book, I'm like, is she crazy? Like, is any of this real? Is
Mm-hmm.
this her own mind making up these scenarios that like people are coming after her and she has to do all these things? It made me really think like, oh, she might be crazy and this might not even be real. But at the end, I was like, oh, she's just like a wounded bird and she just like needs to not, I don't know. I felt really sad for her, you know?
Milk.
Milk?
Haven't you heard that meme before? He needs some milk.
Sure haven't, but I'm gonna
Okay.
start using that.
Anyways.
But what do
Um,
you think?
yeah, I definitely agree. She was very like frazzled, super dependent on this counseling group that they had where they met. And it almost seemed like that was one of the only times she even left her apartment to go out and do things, because otherwise her friend that she spent most of her time with was that house plant that she named Fine. Is that
Fine.
right?
Yeah, as in final girl.
Oh, correct.
No
Yes.
plant.
So that was very interesting. Loved his character transformation and how he got to be planted at the end of the book. That was very exciting.
It was cute.
But yeah, super frazzled, super anxious, super whatever. So then when she finally was out and about in the real world, it's almost like she didn't know she was going into survival mode, like for good reason, because there was someone coming after them. But you're like, is part of the way she's acting because she doesn't have much experience like out in the world, or is it just because she needs to do everything she can to protect herself and these other final girls that are all in this group together with her?
Yeah. And at the beginning of the book, you can tell when she's going to the group, she's like, I took a bus and then I took a train and then I took another bus and then I took another bus. And it was like she was doing all these things thinking that someone was following her when no one was following her.
Yeah.
But that was like crazy to me. But I was like, that makes sense. But then later in the book, she was like, I'm so clumsy. Like I did all these things so that I wouldn't be found and then I was found. And I was like, dang.
You know, something that you just reminded me of was her looking at everyone's shoes when she was on those buses and stuff, but I don't think that they really kept that up throughout the book. I almost expected there to be some kind of like, or was there at the end?
Yeah, that's how she knew it was Sky at the end because of his shoes.
Oh, yeah. See,
She looked
sometimes I just forget things. But yeah, so that was one thing. And I will be honest, I'm super bad with foreshadowing, and I'm kind of just like bebop through a book, just reading and doing whatever's going on. And I have like no foresight to be like, oh, I think this is how, like when you were just talking about how um you were like, is this all actually happening? Like I never even thought about that. I was just coasting through.
yeah. I was like, is she crazy? Are we all crazy?
Is this really
What's
happening? I
happening?
guess that means that any thriller I read that has a plot twist, I'll always just be shocked because I never would have guessed it.
Exactly. It's best of both worlds.
Exactly.
Okay, on to the next one. What did we think about the support group as a whole? And then throughout the book, did your view of them change at all as a group or as individuals, if anything changed?
Yeah, I think that the support group was important for them at the time right after the events happened to them, and even like 10, 15 years after they happened. Because do you know exactly like how much time? I want to say that her stuff happened when she was in high school,
Yep.
and she's currently like,
She was like 40 something. She was in
okay,
her
that's what I was thinking. So it's been like a long time. So I would say like it was probably very helpful for them, but then probably turned into a very toxic environment almost for them to continue to be so dependent on going to this, especially for Lynette. You saw that she was very freaked out when they discussed breaking apart the group and not doing that anymore. So I feel like it probably would have been best for the course to have run out, maybe even when they were in their 20s after they went through college, started having their own family, whatever. She probably needed to work more individually with Lynette outside of the group, so that she could live a normal life. But I
yeah.
digress. As far as change, I really wish, and we may talk about this in a little bit. I wish we would have had more interaction with Adrienne, the one that never showed up to group, because I really liked her character, and I think I would have enjoyed hearing more about her experience at the camp. It's almost like Friday the 13th kind of thing. Um, but yeah, Adrienne. But as far as I don't know, I feel like Heather didn't really change much. I feel like at the end of the book, she was still just a little hoity-toity woman.
Mhm.
But yeah, I don't necessarily think that any of them really had any major character development. I think that Lynette maybe broke out of her fear a little bit, especially getting the chance to not just because in her first event, she kind of just like got hung up on the antlers and then just had to play dead. But this time she actually got to face the people that were doing this to her. So, what about
Yeah. So I agree. I think that Lynette relied on them way too much, the group, and all of them were like ready to move on.
Mhm.
And she wasn't. And even at like the end of the book, when Sky was like, if this happened to me, like I would just move on from it.
Mhm.
And Lynette was like, what do you mean? Like it never like crossed her mind to like maybe move on and like
Right.
not keep living in the past.
Mhm.
But I think that she relied really heavily on them emotionally.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Question number 3. Lynette is on the run for most of the book. What did you think of this? Did you think that there were parts of the journey that weren't necessary?
Yes. I think a lot of the journey was not necessary.
Mhm.
Like a lot. So I think the trip to what was her name?
Stephanie or Chrissy?
Marilyn's house.
Oh, yes, Marilyn. I'm
While
thinking
she was
of
like
the other one.
having the party, I
Yeah.
thought that nothing came of that. Zero. I think going to Chrissy's house was very random
Mhm.
and I don't think added much besides the fact that we found out that Chrissy was like a psychopath that had this museum and
Mhm.
like crazy.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I just think that was not necessary. All the stuff with like the cop, like I think some of that was necessary, but some of it was like when he like drove her out to like the desert and she like thought she was gonna die and he was like, no, you're not. Like I was like, this is weird. I,
Yeah.
I think I think it's like coming from a male perspective. A lot of this weird stuff is added because he like maybe thought it needed to be added, but we're reading it as women and we're like, this is fucking weird.
Yeah.
Like, why did you add this?
It's almost like a perpetual journey, kind of like Lord of the Rings, where they're just walking through like half of the book, but she's driving in a car.
Mhm.
But yeah, there was a lot. I completely forgot about her even doing anything and being driven by that police officer until you said that. But yeah,
Yeah.
that the only thing he really needed to be there for was when that guy in the prison started attacking her. He did save
Mhm.
her there, but as I mean, I guess his point was to like help her get released, but I feel like that could have been done in a different way.
Also, I feel like that specific story, part of the story, was for his benefit because he said, I knew he was going to attack you. And
Yeah.
he wanted to be like the one to save her for the third time,
Right. I
you
also
know?
didn't feel like she needed, like, that relationship wasn't really necessary for her. I almost would have rather, they talked a little bit about, oh, are you still a virgin because you've never like had a boyfriend or whatever. I almost would have rather her still have been a virgin and never had been in a relationship because honestly, that would have made more sense for her character overall because she was this like neurotic woman after all this happened that just lived inside.
Yeah.
So
I
him
thought
as
they were going to say she was a virgin. A
right.
100%.
But yeah, also I will say I did enjoy whether or not it was necessary and totally didn't make any sense once it was over. I did enjoy hearing about the museum and them trying to like sell the photos to Chrissy. I thought
Mhm.
the description of all the things that were inside was really cool.
Yeah. And like each room, I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah. I
And she like
liked, oh,
had them.
how did you feel at the end of each chapter? There were like um these pages that were black, but they would have like Dr. Carroll's notes written on them, or it would be a police interrogation, or just different things. The posters from the movies, those were really cool too.
I liked the like police reports and the Dr. Carroll's notes. I didn't really like the news articles because I
Yeah,
didn't think those were like that informative.
right.
But yeah, I did like a lot of those. I thought it was interesting.
A lot of their, you can tell that he definitely took inspiration from Friday the 13th with the camp. They even reference Stab,
Mm-hmm.
which I don't know if that was
Green.
directly supposed to be the Stab movies based on the Scream movies.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was pretty interesting. I'm trying to think if there was another that I was like, oh, this is definitely pulling from this movie, but I can't think of any off the top of my head. But yeah, definitely Scream and definitely Friday the 13th were big themes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Up next, who did you think throughout the book stole Lynette's book that she wrote and
Mhm.
was trying to kill her? And did it change at all throughout the book of who you thought it was?
Literally, like I was saying, I don't have very good foresight. So anytime she thought it was someone, I was like, oh yeah, it's definitely them. So I was like, oh, it's Dr. Carroll. Oh, it's whoever Chrissy or whoever she thought it was next. Like I was just going along with the book. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think I ever suspected Sky, although when it re-mentioned about him helping her set up all the emails and her website and stuff for her therapy office, I that should have clued me in, but it did not.
That's so funny.
But it did not.
So I thought it was Dr. Carol like the whole time
Okay.
until the absolute end when we like found out it was Sky.
Well, it was wild when she showed up at Stephanie's house when Lynette tried to go like kidnap her or whatever.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, that was crazy. Because at that point, I did still think it was her.
I was like,
She
girl,
still thought it
run,
was her. Run.
run.
Oh my gosh. Did you ever suspect Stephanie?
I, towards the end, I did,
Okay.
but at the beginning, I didn't. I just thought she was another final girl, you know?
Yeah. See, I literally never suspected her. Not even up until they were like, oh, she bopped you on the back of the head. I was like, okay.
Oh my gosh.
I know, I'm so bad.
So,
Okay.
oh, go ahead.
Sorry. I was going to say, speaking of Stephanie, what did you think about Lynette kidnapping her? And do you think she was crazy or was she justified?
I think she was crazy, but I also think, like, why did Stephanie go with her so willingly? Like, that was kind of wild to me. If I had been through like a final girl situation, someone comes to my house and they're like, you need to come with me for the next 3 days and you can only talk to your parents every 5 hours, I would be like, fuck off. Like, no, I'm not going.
Also, it's a little suspicious that Stephanie knew so much about. So, like, she's a more modern day final girl where her incident just happened recently. Meanwhile, the other women had it happen 25, 30 years ago. So, it's interesting that Stephanie even knew so much about Lynette and what she looked like and stuff. Because you almost think that you wouldn't, even if the media was kind of comparing the old and the new final girls, like, if something like that happened to you, I don't even think you would be paying attention to any of that. Like,
Yeah,
I know, I don't think I would.
probably not.
So yeah, it was a little cuckoo crazy. I don't know how she convinced the parent. It's a little unrealistic that the parents would not have called the police.
Right? I feel like my parents would have, but I'm like, did she just have shitty parents?
I I don't know.
I don't know. So we touched on it a little, but we know that Lynette went to Chrissy's house and she got to see her museum of all the murder artifacts. Yeah, artifacts. What did you think of that? I mean, I thought it was really cool.
It was really cool. The description was really good. I could picture like just the main area where it wasn't as gory and gruesome, and then they went into another room that was like way more like, I think it was called like murderbelia or something. Like
Yes,
it made me
murder.
wonder, and I'm pretty sure that there's actually people that must do stuff like that, which is so wild to me. But yeah, I thought it was really cool. I enjoyed that part of the book. I don't really think her character, I don't know, it doesn't feel like she was a necessary character, but I did like that portion of it.
Yeah, I feel like we could have done without her, but I liked that we kind of got to like learn about, but did we ever even find out what happened to Chrissy? Like how she survived?
I think it did talk about it, but I'm not remembering it right now.
Yeah.
I just know that she like was forgiving of whoever did it to her, because and then she, that guy that lived with her too, that was very weird, who like almost killed Stephanie and was going to beat her up with a baseball bat.
He seemed dumb as a rock. Like he was just
Yes.
saying like one word. He'd be like, die,
I think
hungry.
it was giving me like Hills Have Eyes vibes, like
Yes.
that's just her little like pet or whatever. But he kills
How do
people.
I get one of those?
I don't want one. Oh my goodness. And then
Okay.
you're sad because he almost killed Stephanie, and then Lynette heckin' saved her. Oh, Lynette. All right. Do you think, I talked about this in the beginning, how it's kind of debated whether or not Lynette is a true final girl. Do you think she was a true final girl? Why or why not? did she not qualify as a final girl because she didn't kill her killer? Well, she didn't get killed, so you know what I mean.
Yeah, but she didn't murder the killer.
She didn't
I
murder the
think
murderer.
she is a final girl because she was the only one to survive, regardless of who killed him. By the way, he didn't even die. Like he almost died, but then he went to jail because he didn't die. So, and
Yeah,
also, how she couldn't have killed him. She was on freaking deer horns.
true. Didn't he get shot a couple times by the police officers and he still was alive and went to jail?
Yeah,
Wild.
yeah. So yeah, I think she was a final girl. I think it's not so black and white, you know?
Yep. Yeah, I agree. I don't think there needs to be that strict definition where, oh, you need to kill the person. Like if you were attacked by this person, but you're the only one that survived the attack, then I think that qualifies you as a final girl or boy if you were a final boy. And you know what else I just thought of, and I want your opinion on because I don't think we have a question on it, was the fabricated letters
Yes.
to the killer. What did you think about that?
So I was going to bring this up at the end because I didn't add a question about it, but the whole scene of her in the holding cell
Uh-huh.
with them dressed up as Santa Claus and them putting her like letters all over the walls, that's when I was like, she is mentally ill. Like
Mm,
this is not happening.
yeah.
She thinks that these people are dressing up and they're like laughing at her and they're putting the letters all over the walls. Like we don't know if that actually happened, but I think it's crazy. Well, I think it's crazy that she sent him all those letters to begin with that kind of hinted at her wanting to have her dad killed.
Yeah.
But then the fact that there were like more love letters included, I was like, oh my God, that she didn't even write.
I
That was
definitely I understand it from like a teenage angst point of view and being like, oh, I hate my dad. I just wish he would go away, blah blah blah.
mm,
And of course they could have I'm surprised they didn't try to use that against her in the first trial or whatever that they held. Because it said that they kind of just threw away the letters to begin with when they looked at them. But yeah, that was pretty cool. I liked that those letters were fabricated and that scene in the holding cell was very wild.
it was. I was like, what? I thought she was like having a mental breakdown and it was not real.
Yeah.
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 All right. So whose storyline out of all the final girls or the doctor or the son did you think was like the most interesting and why?
Okay, so I can't remember what her name, who is the final girl that was paralyzed?
Julia.
Julia. Yeah, I really liked her storyline. Because you got to see, I also liked the woman that was married. I don't know, I almost wish we have like spin-off books about some of the other characters because I
Yeah.
loved, I forget what was the one who was married and her wife died.
Danny and Michelle were
And
the
they
main.
left her in the park with that man. Oh God.
That was wild.
Yeah, those two. So you said Annie,
Danny,
oh,
Michelle,
Danny, Michelle, and Julie.
Julia.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I liked all three of them. I really almost do wish we had spin-off books for them because I want to know like just more about their lives because they were cool. And what
Yeah.
about you?
I liked Lynette's storyline the most just because I feel like that's where we got the most like details.
Yeah,
I feel like we didn't get enough about the rest of the final girls. I
yeah,
wish we would have gotten like a breakdown of like what happened and where they were and what was going on, like we did with Lynette.
Lynette. Almost
Because then
like
we
we,
could vision it.
yeah, we could have even gotten like police reports of like what happened, and that would have been good.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Do you think Lynette was going to publish her book, or was it just for her, like she said?
I think she was definitely going to publish it.
Agreed. I don't, because what did she even do for work or money? Oh, she was a writer. She wrote little
Hmm.
books. So yeah, I definitely think she was gonna try and because she's even said she was gonna publish it herself and not include the police officer on it.
Yeah. I think like she was going to publish it, but then when she got caught that she wrote it, she was like, oh shit, because
Mm,
she wrote wrote such bad things. So she
Yep.
was like, "Oh, it was never gonna be published." But I'm like, "Girl, you're lying."
Lying. Yeah, she definitely was going to. And I feel like because I think she had beef with Heather. She kind of like didn't really care about her. And
Mhm.
since and if the group would have ended too, I think she would have been so mad that she would have just ended up publishing it anyway.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Ah, goodness.
So normally we go into a segment where we pick a celebrity or an actor or actress who we think should play all the characters in the movie. But Melanie and I could only think of someone for Lynette. So we're only going to do that. So
Yeah.
get ready.
Woo. Okay. For some reason, when I was thinking about this, someone immediately came to my mind. And
Same.
oh, that's good. Imagine it's like the same person, but I don't think it will be. So I don't know if you'll know her by name, Lori Metcalf. She played Roseanne's sister in
Yes.
Roseanne.
Okay, yes, I could see that.
Okay.
Mine is not the same person, but
Okay.
I feel like she has a similar look. Mine's
Okay.
Juliette Lewis.
Let me look her up. Julia Lewis. Oh, yeah, she does.
But
Yep.
Lori Metcalf, I feel like is a better pick. Like I could see her being like more like deranged.
Kind of like cuckoo. Yeah.
Yeah. So I
Exactly.
like that.
And
Very nice.
overall, what did you rate this book?
I rated it a 3. I didn't hate the book, but I didn't love it. It wasn't like the best book I've ever read in my life, but it did take me a while to like get through. There were moments that I like put it down and didn't pick it up for a minute.
Yep. I also gave it a 3. And same with his other book, How to Sell a Haunted House. I gave it 3. So I think he's like kind of a 3-star author for me. Like it's good. It's a good read. I'm not like super excited about it, but I won't say no to like reading one from him, you know?
Yeah,
Well, yeah.
exactly.
Do you want to talk a little bit about what our next plan is for the podcast?
I would love to. So, if any of you are listening and you don't know Melanie and I personally, we are I don't want to say world's biggest, but pretty close. We are huge Swifties. We love Taylor. We love the Queen. We rock with her in every phase of life. And if you tell me otherwise, I'll kill you.
Oh gosh.
Just kidding. That's aggressive. I'm still on the spooky theme, you know.
Yeah.
Just kidding, won't kill you if the police are listening. But we are doing a Taylor Swift eras series where we're gonna pick a book for each era, and we're starting with debut.
I was gonna do drum roll. So the book that we decided to do, we of course scoured TikTok because there's tons of videos out there that are like, read this if you want to have debut vibes. Which one that I saw was like the Hunger Games, and I was like, what? So that was kind of funny. But we are doing Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter, which I have heard great things about. I've only just started it, so I'm not like super into it yet, but I'm excited.
Me too. I can't wait. I'm so excited to do a book for every era. And
Yes.
I feel like some of the eras will be like very similar, maybe like the beginning eras, like
I can't wait.
Fearless, Debut, Speak Now will be very similar. But I'm so excited for like Reputation and
Reputation,
Evermore.
Folklore, Evermore, Midnights. Yeah, I'm so excited to get into that.
1989. Like if we do not read the most romantic, cutest little girly pop book for 1989,
Set in New York, someone who just moved to New York.
yes. So actually, I'm going to throw this out there. I'm not saying we're doing this, but I'm throwing it out there. For 1989, we could do One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston.
Oh, I think I already have that book, so that would be
I
fine.
do too. And it's set in New York, and it's an LGBTQ plus book about two lady friends that fall in love. And I think there's like time traveling in it. So I'm all about it.
Yeah. So, yeah. And if you guys have any suggestions for any of the eras, please send us a comment. either on Instagram or to this podcast. I don't think you can comment on the podcast, but leave a review and tell us ideas.
Just do it.
Yeah. And if you're looking for our Instagram, it is at Literary Ladies Pod. We try to update that. Obviously, it hadn't been updated in like almost 2 years, but we're updating it now. So get excited.
We're back, baby.
We're back, baby. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed, and we will see you next time.
See you next time. Bye.
Bye.